Hello and happy Thursday, guys. Friday is so close, I can almost taste it. It's a little different for me because I work night shift, so I guess I should say Saturday morning is so close, I can almost taste it. Do you guys have big plans this weekend? My mom's birthday is on Friday, so shout out to Peggy. I hope it's the best day ever. I don't even know if she listens to this podcast or not. I'll have to send it to her though. I love you and wouldn't be where I am in life without you. I'm so glad that God gave you to me as my mom. You are truly a saint, and I love everything about you, even the parts that drive me crazy. Happy birthday. Saturday, we are having a get together for the kids so they can see their friends that they haven't seen since school got out. We will have approximately 8 kids at our house, so please pray for me. I could use some prayer. I love that the kids want to invite their friends over. I love that they love doing that and feel comfortable. But it's always chaos, which is great though. It's loving chaos. And then Sunday, we are hosting our small group. We normally meet at someone else's house, but they're going to be out of town. So we are taking on that responsibility. So it's going to be a crazy weekend for us. And I will be back to work on Monday before I can even blink. But that's okay because it's full of love and community and just being around the people that matter to us the most. So I am going to enjoy it instead of letting myself become overwhelmed in the craziness. Let me know in the comments what your plans are for this weekend so maybe I can get some inspiration from you. So anyways, what you came for. You did not come for my personal life. What you came for. This week, I've been spending a lot of time in the book of Esther. I have read her story a million times, but the Word of God is living and active. So I shouldn't be surprised that I'm getting more and more out of the book every single time that I read it. Before we dive into this, I want to ask you a question. And I feel like I already know the answer to it, but I'm going to ask anyways. Have you ever had someone in your life that you felt or that you knew for certain was going after you for no good reason except for the fact that they don't like you? What about they're going after you except for the fact that you love God? And that's the only reason that they don't like you is because you have a relationship with God. It's a real question. It's a real thing that people struggle with, that we struggle with all the time. If you can relate to that, hold tight because I've got some really good news for you. Welcome back to another episode of Bite Size Bible. My name is Kelly Thomas and I'm your host. My goal with this podcast is to break the Bible down into bite-sized pieces to help you understand it better because we all know that the Bible can be difficult to understand sometimes. It doesn't matter if you're new or if you've been reading it for years, it can be difficult and it can trip you up. If you have anything to add to any episode, please leave it in the comments so that we can learn from each other. I really love different perspectives and how God speaks to you through the passage because what he says to you is going to be different than what he says to me, and I love that we can learn from each other. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get into the word. So my disclaimer before we dive in is that I am sitting in my car. It seems like every time I go to record a YouTube video or a podcast episode, I get up early. I'm expecting the house to be quiet. I come downstairs and there's a child sitting on the couch watching me come down the stairs. So, excuse me as I drink my coffee. I am not one of the parents that's like, go to your room. Just because I'm the parent and I've got something to do. Like, it's their house too. So I am sitting in my car. And if you hear the air conditioning, that's because I live in South Carolina and it's like 100 degrees outside. So there's no way I could sit out here with no AC. So here I am in my car. Any weird noises you hear, I'll try and edit them out, but I'm sorry. It is what it is. I refuse to let distractions stop me from doing this. Okay, so here we go. We have talked about Esther before. I have a podcast that I will link in the description box below. It's called For Such a Time as This. But if you don't know about Esther, she is a Jewish woman that was presented to King Xerxes because she was beautiful and he chose her to be his queen. Now, there was a lot of other women presented to him, but he chose Esther to be his queen because he found favor with her. Now, some important people. We have Esther, we have King Xerxes. Mordecai is an important person in this story. He is Esther's cousin. He took her in, raised her after her parents died. And even after she was taken to the palace, he would come every day, stand outside the gates just to check on her, find out information about her. He had specifically instructed her not to tell the king that she was Jewish. So he was trying to just make sure that she was still being taken care of and that she was protected. Another guy, Haman, he was in good standings with the king, and he is a bad guy. Like, he's horrible. He made a law that everyone had to bow down to him and show him respect. Mordecai said he wasn't going to do that. He's not bowing down to anyone but God. So for punishment, Haman passed a decree saying that all the Jewish people were to be, and I quote, annihilated, and the people in their towns were allowed to be the ones to do it. So Haman set a date. This is like weeks out. He sent out letters to everyone. He said, this is the day that we're going to do this. Attack them, kill them, have your way with them. Plunder all their things, and we're going to wipe out all the Jews on one day. So all the Jewish people, they go into mourning, fasting. They are grief-stricken, as they should be. And Mordecai goes to Esther and he's like, you got to talk to the king. And she's like, the king is going to kill me. Long story short, Mordecai convinces Esther to petition the king to stop this. And the whole story can get a little lengthy, so I'm going to shorten it up just a little bit. Mordecai does some things to protect the king, literally spares him from being murdered. There was a plot to kill the king. That won his favor. Esther gave him credit because Mordecai went to Esther, told her, Esther told the king. So Esther gave Mordecai the credit, and Mordecai won the king's favor. So Esther wins favor with the king and explains to him that they are about to kill all her people. So at this time, she exposes that she is Jewish, that Haman has this plot to kill all the Jews. Even though technically it was signed by the king, Haman had the king's signet ring. So when the decree goes out, everyone thinks it's the king that's done it, but it's Haman, and he has only partially told the king the truth about what's going to happen. So the king kills Haman. He gets super angry. He's so mad because the king loves Esther. He wants to protect her, and it makes him mad that he has lied to him and done this. And so there's a new decree that goes out that says that the Jewish people are allowed to protect themselves. And since they have the favor of the king, and Mordecai has the favor of the king, and Mordecai, we'll get to this, is in the palace with the king at this point, a lot of the people that normally would have attacked the Jews are now fearful of the Jews. So I strongly encourage you to go read the book of Esther. I am convinced that it should be a rated R book because there is some craziness in there. A little side note, some of the translations say that Haman was hanged, and some say that he was impaled. So I did some digging, and a commentary that I found said that being hanged and being impaled were one and the same. It's just different use of the words, but technically when you're impaled, you're hanging on the pole. Okay? But what really made my stomach turn was the way that they were impaled. My husband already knew this. He said, have you never heard of Vlad the Impaler? And I was like, absolutely not, never did. But how this works is that a spear is stuck into the ground with the pointy end sticking up. And the convicted person was sat on the top of this pole, and that point went into their behind, and they were left to slowly slide down the pole until it came out of their throat. Y'all, they were alive for this. Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine how painful. Oh, it just makes my stomach turn even. I don't know why I'm talking about it now because it gives me the heebie-jeebies. Okay, but the point of this was to be humiliating. And it was done publicly to make a point to the people around. Like, there are consequences for your behavior. Okay, so back to the point of this episode. that impaled thing just gets me. But in Esther 8, verses 1 through 2, I had to pause for a moment. Like, when I read it, it stopped me in my tracks. It spoke to my heart. And I'm going to read to you what it says because it's so important. It says, the same day, so the same day meaning the day that Haman died, the day that he was hanged. The same day, King Xerxes gave Queen Esther the estate of Haman, the enemy of the Jews. And Mordecai came into the presence of the king, for Esther had told how he was related to her. The king took off his signet ring, which he had reclaimed from Haman, and presented it to Mordecai. And Esther appointed him over Haman's estate. So a couple of things here. One, I always, like, when I used to read Esther, I thought it was fishy that they just kept the fact that they were Jewish a secret. Like, everyone knows that the Jewish people serve one God. But sometimes God requires us to keep information to ourselves until the right time to deliver that information. Had Esther just laid everything out on the line, the king may have not even brought her into the palace. She may not have been there to be a protector of the Jewish people. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you're praying when you're having conversations with God. He will prompt you on when to speak and when to keep your mouth shut. Okay, so this passage specifically, it blew me away because Esther got everything that belonged to Haman. She was given Haman's estate. The man that wanted to wipe out all of the Jews, all of his belongings after he died, went to the Jewish people. That is incredible. He was killed and she got his things. Mordecai, who protected Esther and the king, the same man that Haman plotted to kill, was brought into the palace, and the king gave him his signet ring. So the ring that Haman had been trusted with by the king was taken off of his finger and placed on the man that he had tried to kill. Because his pride got the best of him, he wouldn't bow down to him, so he's like, let's just kill all the Jews. That Jewish man ended up getting his position in the palace. He went from hanging outside of the palace gates to being in power inside the safety of the palace. And Esther gave Mordecai control of Haman's estate, so he got to decide what happened to it. So Haman's friends and wife, they were all on Haman's side. They even encouraged him to do the things that he had done. And now they are living under the control of Mordecai. Here's the point I want to make today. God will restore you and elevate you right in front of the people that are trying to tear you down. So if you have those people that don't like you just because you're you, the ones that don't like you because you love God, don't even stress about them. Stand firm in your relationship with God. Seek Him. Live the life that you know you're supposed to live. God does not ask much from us. He asks us to love Him, love our neighbors, and keep His commands. It's pretty simple. It's not always easy, but it is simple. Like, it's basic. Love God, love your neighbors. That's it. And Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 20 says, wherever you hear the sound of the trumpet, join us there. Our God will fight for us. I love this verse. I also read out of Nehemiah this week. And this verse popped out to me because the Jewish people were rebuilding the wall of the city. When they had come back from Babylon, the city was in ruins and they were rebuilding the wall of the city because there were people that wanted to destroy them. But Nehemiah had a plan. The people rebuilding the wall had a plan. They had their weapons. They had protection. But most importantly, they had God on their side and they knew it. They trusted that He would protect them. They trusted that He would fight for them. Guys, God will fight for you and He will restore you right in front of your enemy. If you trust Him to do that, all we have to do is put a little bit of faith in Him. I know that I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to say it again. Guys, the faith of a mustard seed, it's super small. It's so tiny. But the mustard seed, the tree that grows from it grows to be massive. So just a little bit of faith can change everything. It can change everything for you. Right now, we are living in a time where being a Christian is really hard. It's a crazy time. People will try and tear you down just because you love Jesus and refuse to bow down to their beliefs. Let them try. Let them try, because God will protect you, restore you, and elevate you right in front of them. Trust Him and give Him the opportunity to do that for you. Once again, thank you so much for listening. I love hanging out with you. And when you like, share, subscribe, all the good things, you help this channel grow so that it can reach more and more people. If you have a prayer request or want to know more about giving your life to Jesus, let me know in the comments or follow the link that is in the description box, and it will send me a message so that I can reach out to you and we can definitely chat about that. I post new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. But if you want more content before then, you can find me on all the socials: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, all the good things. So I'll see you soon.